In one corner, the ancient master of war. From the East, Sun Tzu, elegant, mysterious. The man who said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. And in the other corner, the Renaissance power player from Italy, Niccolò Machiavelli. Cold, calculating. The man who declared it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. This isn't just a battle of ideas, it's a clash of worlds. Two of history's greatest strategists. One forged in the fires of ancient Chinese warfare, the other in the cutthroat politics of Renaissance Florence. Both obsessed with power, control, victory. But their methods couldn't be more different. Sun Tzu believed in harmony and deception, using calm precision to outmaneuver his enemies. A general who thought war should be won before the first arrow flew. Machiavelli, on the other hand, was a realist who stared into the dark heart of politics and didn't flinch. For him, power wasn't about virtue, it was about results. Schemes, fear, manipulation. We're going to pit these two giants against each other. Philosophy versus philosophy, battlefield versus battlefield, and tactic versus tactic, to see whose strategies stand the test of time. From ancient warfare to modern boardrooms, we'll break down how each thinker saw the world, how they thought victory should be won, and who might win if their ideas were thrown into the ring today. Get ready for a strategic slugfest, because when Sun Tzu meets Machiavelli, the gloves come off. Before we throw these two into the strategic arena, let's understand the worlds that forged them, because strategy isn't just born in the mind, it's forged in chaos. First up, Sun Tzu, 5th century BCE in ancient China. This was the Warring States period, a brutal, no-holds-barred era when Chinese kingdoms tore each other apart in an endless struggle for dominance. Alliances shifted like sand, and massive armies clashed with deadly consequences. This wasn't about honor. This was about survival. Amid this chaos, Sun Tzu emerged, not just as a general, but as a philosopher warrior. His iconic work, The Art of War, wasn't a manual for brute force. It was a spiritual treatise disguised as a war guide. Deeply influenced by Taoist thought, Sun Tzu emphasized balance, flow, and the path of least resistance. To him, the best victory was the one that required no battle at all. He saw war not as a contest of strength, but of perception and manipulation, using deception, timing, and understanding to turn the tide before the fight even began. Now let's time jump 1,000 years to 16th century Italy. Enter Machiavelli. This was a land in turmoil. City-states like Florence, Venice, and Milan were locked in political chess matches, constantly threatened by foreign invaders and internal betrayal. The church held one hand on the Bible, the other on a dagger. The Renaissance was blooming, but behind the art was blood. Niccolò Machiavelli lived through it all: schemes, coups, the fall of the Florentine Republic, and the ruthless return of the Medici family. When he wrote The Prince, he wasn't theorizing in a library, he was clawing for relevance after being imprisoned and tortured by the very people he once served. Machiavelli's world demanded cunning. Morality was a liability. Success wasn't for the righteous, it was for the ruthless. And The Prince was his brutal love letter to political power, how to get it, how to keep it, and how to use fear when necessary. So here we are, two men shaped by two different storms: Sun Tzu, the philosopher of calm control in a fragmented China, and Machiavelli, the realist survivor in a backstabbing Renaissance Italy. Let's break down what they actually believed. It's time to get inside their heads. All right, gloves are off. Time to step into the minds of two of history's sharpest tacticians. First, Sun Tzu. This guy isn't about brute strength. He's a master of subtlety, a psychological puppet master who believes the greatest victory is the one never fought. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. That's Sun Tzu in a nutshell. To him, the battlefield was a mind game. Win in the head before swords are drawn. This is where his Taoist influence kicks in. Go with the flow, adapt like water, and strike only when the moment is perfect. There's no honor in a fair fight if you can outwit your opponent before they even see you coming. Deception? That's not cheating. It's strategy. Appear weak when you're strong. Strong when you're weak. Confuse, distract, mislead. Every illusion is a blade. And flexibility, it's his greatest weapon. No rigid tactics. No ego. Just constant adaptation to terrain, to timing, to the enemy's mind. Sun Tzu doesn't seek glory, he seeks control. Emotional control, tactical control, total control. He said, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will not be defeated in 100 battles. This isn't philosophy for generals only. It's advice for chess players, CEOs, even poker players. Outsmart, outmaneuver, outlast. Now, let's turn to our Italian underdog, Machiavelli. Where Sun Tzu flows, Machiavelli strikes. No illusions, no poetry. Just cold, hard power. He said, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. That's not advice. It's a challenge to every idealist in power. Machiavelli's world was ruthless, so he wrote The Prince not as a fantasy, but a survival guide for rulers. You want peace? Use war. You want loyalty? Use fear. You want results? Forget virtue. Ethics? That's cute. Machiavelli knew morality was a luxury rulers couldn't afford. His mantra? The ends justify the means. If lying, manipulating, or even betraying leads to a stable kingdom, do it. Control, to Machiavelli, meant manipulation of allies, enemies, the public. A good ruler knows when to be a lion, bold, terrifying, and when to be a fox, clever, sly, unseen. But don't mistake him for a nihilist. Machiavelli wasn't against virtue, he was against weakness. If being honest works, great. If not, flip the script. His real virtue was adaptability, the ability to bend with fortune and shape it with force. So here's the philosophical battleground. Sun Tzu believed in winning with wisdom, tricking the mind, flowing with the world. Whereas Machiavelli believed in winning with power, shaping the world, crushing if you must. One fights with the unseen hand, the other with a dagger behind his back. Coming up next, we take these ideas to the battlefield. Whose military strategy truly dominates when swords clash and armies move? Two masters, two mindsets, two completely different playbooks. Let's see what happens when Sun Tzu's ancient calm collides with Machiavelli's ruthless aggression. First up, Sun Tzu's playbook. This guy treats war like chess, not a bar brawl. He's all about indirect conflict, outsmarting the enemy long before the clash of steel. Why fight fair when you can fight smart? Sun Tzu's ideal war ends before it begins, with espionage, sabotage, and misdirection doing the heavy lifting. He says all warfare is based on deception. He leverages terrain like it's a secret weapon, turns spies into silent assassins of morale, and prefers retreats as setups for traps. Case in point, Cross Swords Battle of Red Cliffs, a textbook Sun Tzu-style victory. The smaller force used feigned retreats, misinformation, and timing to utterly humiliate a much larger army. No brute force, just brilliance. But across the ring, Machiavelli enters sword drawn. He doesn't want a long game, he wants decisive, fear-inducing dominance. For Machiavelli, military strategy is a blunt instrument. You crush your enemies completely because half measures lead to rebellions. He writes, injuries must be inflicted all at once so that their ill savor may be less. Take his hero, Cesare Borgia, the Renaissance warlord who Machiavelli admired like a coach loves star quarterback. Borgia didn't outwit his enemies, he obliterated them. He'd invite rivals to dinner, then execute them the next morning. He used violence as a scalpel, cut deep, cut once, and leave no threat standing. This is shock and awe strategy. It's not pretty, but it works fast. So the clash between these two is ultimately between precision and power. Sun Tzu says, wait, watch, and move only when the moment is perfect. Be the ghost in the battlefield. Machiavelli says, strike first, strike hard, and don't leave anyone standing. It's patience versus preemption, the art of war versus the war of artifice. One man wins with silence, the other with spectacle. So who rules the battlefield? That depends. Are you fighting a long campaign or crushing a rebellion overnight? War wins battles, but politics wins empires. Now we step off the battlefield and into the throne room. It's a showdown between Sun Tzu's soft power and Machiavelli's iron grip. First up, Sun Tzu's political philosophy. You might think he's all swords and strategy, but Sun Tzu had a deep political vision, and it starts with harmony. He believed victory comes from alignment. There are 5 constants: the way, heaven, earth, the commander, and discipline. Translation? A stable kingdom flows from top to bottom. Values first, structure second. The ruler must be respected. The people must be inspired. The commander must embody both strength and virtue. This is leadership through integrity. When a ruler is in sync with the way, or as it was hailed, Tao, the people follow not out of fear, but from trust. Sun Tzu's strategy builds loyalty, not terror. Its politics is orchestration, not domination. His political goal? Win hearts, win minds, win without oppression. Enter Machiavelli, kicking the table over. Forget harmony, forget hearts. Fear gets results. Machiavelli believed rulers must be ready to lie, manipulate, and even kill, not for pleasure, but for stability. To him, the masses are fickle. Give them too much freedom, and they'll tear you apart. Give them too much love, and they'll take advantage. It is much safer to be feared than loved. That's not just a line, it's a survival tactic. Machiavelli's prince is a puppet master, controlling perception, staging generosity, then striking when needed. He praised Cesare Borgia for eliminating rivals publicly and gloriously, creating both fear and admiration. This is hard power politics. Eliminate enemies, control narratives, stay in power at any cost. Here, the clash between two is harmony versus domination. Sun Tzu says, align your rule with virtue and discipline. Win through respect and moral force. Machiavelli says, rule with strength. Command fear. If virtue works, use it. If not, fake it. It's respect versus fear, unity versus control, Tao versus terror. But here's the real twist. Both strategies work in different worlds. One builds lasting loyalty. The other quashes rebellion before it starts. Think Sun Tzu and Machiavelli are just dusty old names in history books? Think again. Their ideas are everywhere, from the boardroom to the battlefield to your favorite streaming show. Let's talk business. Sun Tzu's philosophy has become gospel in corporate strategy. CEOs, marketers, and negotiators all chant, know yourself and know your enemy. That's market research, brand psychology, competitive intelligence. Tech giants use Sun Tzu's tactics to outmaneuver rivals silently, pivoting products, analyzing data, striking at just the right time. Think Apple dropping a new product just as competitors stumble? That's Sun Tzu in a turtleneck. And on the other side, Machiavelli runs Wall Street. Hostile takeovers, corporate espionage, backroom deals, cutthroat capitalism in its purest form. Companies crush smaller rivals, manipulate public perception by influence, because in business, just like politics, the ends justify the means. Now zoom out to the world stage. Geopolitics is their new battlefield. Modern China? They've practically weaponized Sun Tzu. Strategies like unrestricted warfare, using economics, cyber tools, media, and diplomacy to undermine rivals without firing a shot. That's the art of war version 2.0. Meanwhile, the West has long danced to a Machiavellian tune. Think Henry Kissinger, master of realpolitik, negotiating with dictators, balancing superpowers, sacrificing ideals for stability. That's Machiavelli whispering in the ear of modern empires. And of course, pop culture loves them both. In Game of Thrones, Littlefinger, pure Machiavelli. Always scheming, always climbing, ruthless to the core. And Tyrion, classic Sun Tzu. Outsmarting enemies, reading people, staying 2 moves ahead without ever drawing a sword. So, whether it's stocks, states, or swords, Machiavelli and Sun Tzu never left. They just changed outfits. Even legends have blind spots, and our 2 strategic titans are no exception. Let's talk weaknesses. First up, Sun Tzu. Sure, he's elegant, wise, tactical. But is he too idealistic? His strategies assume enemies are rational, that war is calculated like a chess game. But modern conflicts? They're messy, irrational, emotional. What happens when your opponent doesn't follow the script? Sun Tzu's method breaks down when faced with chaos and unpredictability. Terrorists, rogue states, or mad kings don't exactly respond to subtle feints and terrain manipulation. And let's be honest, not every conflict can be avoided, no matter how clever you're planning. Sometimes the sword must swing. Now Machiavelli, he's got issues. Yes, fear works. Yes, manipulation secures power, but at what cost? His tactics often lead to short-term control and long-term disaster. Fear breeds resentment. Betrayal sparks revenge. Eventually, people catch on, and when they do, the fall is spectacular. Just ask every dictator who ruled with Machiavellian flair. Many ended up exiled, overthrown, or worse. Brutality might win the day, but it rarely wins history. So here's the truth. Sun Tzu might leave you unprepared for chaos. Machiavelli might win fast, but lose everything in the end. On one side, Sun Tzu, the master of calm cunning, silent strikes, and psychological dominance. He wins wars before they start and sees victory as harmony. On the other, Machiavelli, the prince of raw power, ruthless moves, and fearless control. He sees his power, holds it tight, and never blinks. Subtlety versus strength. Deception versus domination. Respect versus fear. But here's the twist. We're not picking the winner. You are. Which strategy rules the modern world? Is it Machiavelli's ruthless realism or Sun Tzu's timeless intelligence? Drop your pick in the comments. Are you Team Machiavelli or Team Sun Tzu? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, or legendary face-offs are coming. 2 minds, 1 question. Who truly wins? That's up to you.